Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. My friends, have you ever found yourself consumed by anger, only to regret it later? Have you ever allowed another person's words or actions to dictate your emotions? Today, I want to share with you a hidden secret, a way to free yourself from anger forever. People act according to their understanding, meaning that every action a person takes is based on what they believe to be right, necessary, or justified at that moment. No one deliberately chooses what they see as the wrong course of action. Instead, they act in accordance with their perceptions, experiences, and beliefs. When we realize this, it becomes easier to approach others with patience and understanding rather than anger and resentment. Consider a person who speaks harshly or treats others unfairly. It may seem like they are being deliberately cruel, but in their own mind, they have a reason for their behavior. Perhaps they believe they are defending themselves, asserting their authority, or acting in a way that they have been conditioned to see as normal. Their understanding of the situation dictates their response. If they truly knew a better way, if they fully understood the consequences of their actions or the harm they cause, they would not act as they do. No one, when fully aware of what is truly good, deliberately chooses its opposite. This idea does not mean that people are free from responsibility for their actions, but it does shift the way we interpret their behavior. When we see someone behaving in a way we find offensive, hurtful, or unjust, we have a choice in how we respond. We can react with anger, assuming malice, or we can recognize that their actions stem from their own limitations in understanding. If a child knocks over a cup of water, we do not feel personal offense, because we know the child does not fully understand the consequences of their actions. In the same way, when an adult acts out of ignorance, we can remind ourselves that they are limited by their own perspective just as we are limited by ours. The idea that people act according to their understanding also applies to ourselves. How often do we regret actions taken in the past? How many times have we looked back and thought, "I should have known better"? In those moments we forget that we did not know better at the time. If we had possessed greater wisdom, we would have acted differently. Instead of dwelling on regret or blaming ourselves, we can use these experiences to cultivate compassion, not only for others, but for our own shortcomings. When dealing with difficult people, remembering this principle can help us maintain our composure. If someone insults us, speaks unfairly, or acts with hostility, we can remind ourselves that they are acting based on what they believe to be right or necessary at that moment. Their anger may come from their own insecurities, their past experiences, or misunderstandings they carry. Instead of fueling that fire with our own resentment, we can choose to remain calm, recognizing that they are only doing what their understanding allows. One way to practice this is to imagine how a wise and patient person might respond to conflict. Would they meet anger with more anger? Would they allow themselves to be disturbed by someone else's ignorance? Or would they see beyond the surface and understand that every person is simply acting from the knowledge and experience available to them? If we can train ourselves to think in this way, we will find that many things that once provoked us no longer hold the same power. It is also important to recognize that our own understanding is limited. Just as we see flaws in others, they may see flaws in us that we are blind to. What we consider to be the right course of action may, from another perspective, be flawed or incomplete. This awareness should make us humble, reminding us that just as we wish others to be patient with us, we should be patient with them. This mindset does not mean we accept wrongdoing or allow ourselves to be mistreated. Instead, it means that we approach conflict with a sense of wisdom rather than emotional reactivity. If someone is truly harmful, we can address the situation with clarity rather than anger. We can correct, guide, or distance ourselves from negative influences without letting their actions control our emotions. Ultimately, when we understand that people act according to their own beliefs and limitations, we free ourselves from unnecessary frustration. Instead of wasting energy on resentment, we can direct our efforts toward understanding, self-improvement, and maintaining our inner peace. The world is full of unpredictability. Circumstances change, people act in ways we cannot control, and events unfold beyond our desires. Yet, despite all this uncertainty, there is one thing that remains entirely within our power: our own mind. The way we perceive events, the way we react to situations, and the emotions we choose to entertain are all within our control. Many people spend their lives trying to shape the world to fit their expectations, only to face frustration when things do not go their way. They seek control over external factors, other people's behavior, outcomes of situations, or even the opinions of those around them. But this pursuit is futile, for the world will always operate according to its own nature, not according to our wishes. When a person insults us, we have no control over their words, but we do have control over whether we let those words affect us. If we interpret their insult as a deep offense, we will feel hurt, angry, or resentful. But if we see their words as empty noise, meaningless and powerless, then they lose their ability to disturb our peace. The same applies to any external event. If we encounter failure, we can either see it as a catastrophe or as a lesson. If we face rejection, we can either take it as a personal failure or as an opportunity to grow. The event itself does not dictate our emotional response, our mind does. There are many people who believe their happiness depends on things outside of themselves. They think they will be happy once they gain wealth, once they find the perfect relationship, or once the world treats them fairly. But because these things are not in their control, they remain in a constant state of dissatisfaction, always waiting for something external to grant them peace. This is an illusion. True peace and happiness come not from controlling the world, but from mastering one's own mind. A person who relies on external circumstances for happiness will always be at their mercy. The one who controls their thoughts and reactions, however, remains steady regardless of what happens around them. This does not mean that we should not take action or seek to improve our lives. It simply means that we must recognize the limits of our influence. We can work toward our goals, but we must accept that outcomes are uncertain. We can speak our truth, but we cannot force others to agree. We can give our best effort, but we must be willing to let go of what is not within our hands. When we accept this reality, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Imagine a storm raging outside. A person who fights against the storm, shouting at the sky and cursing the rain, will only exhaust themselves. But a person who accepts the storm as it is, who takes shelter and waits for it to pass, remains unharmed. Life's difficulties are no different. The more we resist and try to control what is uncontrollable, the more we suffer. But when we accept things as they are and focus only on our own responses, we find an inner strength that cannot be shaken. People who complain about the actions of others waste their energy. No one can control another person's mind or choices. We cannot make people kinder, more understanding, or more reasonable. We can only choose how we respond to them. A person who is rude or unkind is acting according to their own nature. We do not have to let their nature dictate our emotions. If someone tries to provoke us, we can refuse to be provoked. If someone spreads negativity, we can refuse to absorb it. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, our reactions, our perspective, we gain an incredible freedom. The world will continue to change. People will continue to act in unpredictable ways, but we remain steady. A mind that is well disciplined is like a fortress that no external force can breach. No insult, no failure, no injustice can shake the peace of someone who has mastered themselves. Instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, we should turn our attention inward, strengthening the one thing that is truly ours to command, our own mind. Anger is a fire that burns within, consuming the person who holds it far more than the one it is directed at. When we allow anger to take control, we believe we are responding to an injustice, defending ourselves, or correcting a wrong. Yet in reality, anger rarely harms the person who caused it. Instead, it poisons our own mind, disrupts our peace, and weakens our ability to think clearly. While anger may feel justified in the moment, it is often a self-inflicted wound, one that causes more suffering to the one who holds on to it than to the one who provoked it. When anger takes hold, it clouds judgment. It forces us to react impulsively rather than rationally. In a moment of rage, we say things we later regret, make decisions that cause harm, or damage relationships that took years to build. The person who angered us may forget the situation in a short time, but we are left carrying the emotional weight long after the moment has passed. Anger does not resolve problems. It often makes them worse. A harsh response escalates conflict rather than diffusing it, turning a minor disagreement into a lasting resentment. Moreover, anger is exhausting. It drains mental energy, fills the mind with negativity, and prevents a person from enjoying the present moment. While the object of our anger continues with their life, we remain trapped in a cycle of frustration and bitterness. Carrying anger is like gripping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. It is the one holding the coal who suffers the burns. Even when anger is directed at someone who has wronged us, it does not undo the harm. Instead, it prolongs our suffering, keeping us emotionally tied to the event rather than freeing us from it. There is also the illusion that anger gives strength, that it is a force that allows us to stand up for ourselves. In truth, it does the opposite. A person who is calm and in control of their emotions is far stronger than one who is ruled by rage. Anger is a sign that we have given someone else power over us, allowing their words or actions to dictate our state of mind. True power comes from maintaining inner peace despite external provocation. The ability to remain unmoved by insults, disappointments, or injustice is a far greater victory than any outburst of anger. Furthermore, anger often arises from a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of events. We assume someone intended harm when in reality they acted out of ignorance or thoughtlessness rather than malice. Many conflicts that fuel anger could be avoided if we pause to consider the other person's perspective. Often, what angers us today will seem insignificant in the future. If something will not matter a year from now, why should it steal our peace now? Letting go of anger does not mean accepting mistreatment or ignoring injustice. It simply means responding with wisdom rather than emotion. It is possible to address a wrong without allowing it to disturb our inner balance. A calm mind is far more effective at handling difficult situations than an angry one. Instead of allowing another's actions to dictate our emotions, we can choose to rise above, to protect our own well-being rather than surrender it to temporary frustrations. At its core, anger is a choice. We may not control what happens to us, but we always control how we interpret and respond to it. When we understand that anger harms us more than it harms others, we begin to see it for what it truly is, an unnecessary burden that we have the power to put down. Insults at their core are nothing more than sounds, words formed by another person's breath, shaped by their tongue, and carried through the air. They have no physical weight, no force of their own, and no inherent power to cause harm. It is only when we assign meaning to them, when we allow them to penetrate our minds and stir our emotions, that they begin to affect us. If we strip away this layer of interpretation, we see insults for what they truly are: mere noises, empty vibrations that vanish as quickly as they are spoken. A person who understands this principle becomes immune to verbal attacks. If someone calls us a fool, the words do not change who we are. If someone spreads lies about us, their speech does not alter the truth. What matters is not what is said, but how we choose to perceive it. The problem is not the insult itself, but our reaction to it. If we take offense, it is because we have granted the insult power over us. But if we remain indifferent, the words lose all effect, like an arrow that misses its target and falls harmlessly to the ground. Many people waste energy being troubled by the opinions of others, reacting to every critical word as if it were a personal attack. But what does it truly matter? The opinions of others do not define us. If a child were to call us a ridiculous name, we would not take it seriously. We would dismiss it, knowing that the child speaks without understanding. Why then should we treat the insults of adults any differently? Just because someone believes something about us does not make it true. We do not need to carry the weight of another person's misguided words. Furthermore, insults often reveal more about the person speaking them than about the one they are directed at. When someone resorts to insults, it is usually a reflection of their own frustration, insecurity, or lack of self-control. They insult not because we are as they claim, but because they feel compelled to lash out. Recognizing this allows us to respond with detachment rather than anger. Instead of seeing an insult as a personal attack, we can view it as a symptom of the other person's state of mind. Imagine walking past a barking dog. The dog may growl, snarl, or make all the noise it wishes, but we do not take it personally. We do not stop to argue with the dog or demand that it change its behavior. We simply recognize that barking is what dogs do. Likewise, when an angry or bitter person throws insults, they are simply acting according to their nature at that moment. There is no need to engage, no need to absorb their negativity. Just as the barking of a dog does not harm us, neither do the words of an angry person, unless we let them. One of the greatest forms of strength is the ability to remain unmoved by the words of others. It is a sign of true mastery over oneself. The person who reacts with anger or distress to an insult has handed over their peace to another. But the one who remains calm, who refuses to take the bait, retains full control over their emotions. The insult passes through them like wind through an open field, leaving no trace behind. There is a kind of freedom in realizing that we do not have to be affected by every word spoken to us. Insults are nothing more than sounds, and sounds, once ignored, fade into nothingness. When we internalize this truth, we free ourselves from the burden of taking offense, allowing us to move through life with a mind that is calm, unshaken, and at peace. Life is brief, a fleeting moment in the vast expanse of time. Each day that passes is a day that will never return, and every hour spent in anger is an hour lost forever. Yet many people waste their precious moments holding on to resentment, allowing anger to dominate their thoughts and dictate their actions. They dwell on past offenses, replay arguments in their minds, and harbor grudges that serve no purpose other than to poison their own peace. But if we truly understand the value of time, we will see that anger is a burden too heavy to carry and a thief that robs us of joy. Anger often feels justified. When someone wrongs us, our immediate reaction is to feel hurt, to wish for justice, or even to seek revenge. We convince ourselves that our anger serves a purpose, that it protects us from further harm, or makes things right. But in reality, anger does not fix the past, nor does it guarantee a better future. Instead, it chains us to the very thing that caused us pain, forcing us to relive it again and again. The more we cling to anger, the more it consumes our energy, clouding our thoughts and preventing us from enjoying the present. Imagine looking back on life many years from now. Will the moments spent in anger seem valuable? Will we feel that our time was well spent by holding grudges, by allowing the words and actions of others to dictate our emotions? Or will we regret the days wasted on frustration and resentment? Time moves forward regardless of how we feel, and each moment lost to anger is a moment that could have been spent in peace, in laughter, in love. We must ask ourselves whether the things that anger us today will matter in the long run. Most of the time, they will not. There is an illusion that anger gives strength, that it empowers us to stand up for ourselves. But true strength is not found in rage, it is found in self-control. A person who remains calm in the face of provocation is far stronger than one who is quick to anger. Anger is easy, it is a reflex, an uncontrolled reaction. Mastering one's emotions, on the other hand, requires discipline and wisdom. The ability to let go of anger, to rise above petty conflicts, is a sign of true power. It means we refuse to let others control our inner state, that we value our peace more than we value the fleeting satisfaction of expressing our frustration. We often believe that by staying angry we are punishing those who have wronged us, but the reality is that they may not even be affected. While we hold on to our bitterness, they continue with their lives, unaware or indifferent to the turmoil inside us. In the end, we are the ones who suffer the most. Anger does not imprison others, it imprisons us. It keeps us trapped in the past, preventing us from moving forward and embracing the present with clarity and contentment. Letting go of anger does not mean we ignore injustice or allow ourselves to be mistreated. It simply means we refuse to let negativity take residence in our hearts. We can address problems, stand up for ourselves, and set boundaries without being consumed by hatred. The key is to respond with reason, not with blind emotion. A calm and thoughtful mind is far more effective in resolving conflicts than an angry one. Life is too short to be wasted on emotions that drain us. Every moment spent in anger is a moment stolen from peace, from happiness, from the simple joys of existence. If we knew how little time we truly have, we would not waste it dwelling on things that do not serve us. Instead, we would choose patience, understanding, and the freedom that comes with letting go. Daily reflection is one of the most powerful habits a person can cultivate. It is the practice of looking inward, examining thoughts, actions, and experiences with honesty and clarity. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to move from one task to the next without pause, reacting to situations without considering whether our responses align with our values. But when we take time each day to reflect, we gain awareness, wisdom, and control over our own minds. It allows us to correct mistakes, reinforce positive behaviors, and ensure that we are living with purpose rather than being carried along by circumstance. Reflection is not about dwelling on regrets or harshly judging oneself. Instead, it is about observing with a calm and objective mind, learning from experiences without unnecessary self-criticism. It is an opportunity to ask, did I act wisely today? Did I let emotions control me? Did I speak with kindness? Did I handle challenges with patience? By answering these questions honestly, we can recognize patterns in our behavior and make small but meaningful adjustments each day. Over time, this leads to significant personal growth. One of the greatest benefits of daily reflection is the ability to manage emotions more effectively. Throughout the day, we encounter frustrations, conflicts, and unexpected difficulties. In the moment, it is easy to react impulsively, whether with anger, fear, or impatience. But when we reflect at the end of the day, we gain perspective. We see whether our reactions were justified or whether they were simply emotional responses to temporary situations. This awareness helps us avoid repeating the same mistakes, allowing us to face future challenges with greater calm and control. Another important aspect of reflection is gratitude. Too often, the mind focuses on what is wrong, what went badly, what we lack, or what we wish were different. But by reflecting daily, we can shift our attention to what is good. Even in difficult times, there are moments of kindness, lessons learned, or small victories that deserve recognition. Acknowledging these moments prevents negativity from taking over and helps us appreciate the simple things we often take for granted. Gratitude is a powerful force that brings contentment, and regular reflection ensures that we do not overlook the blessings in our lives. Reflection also helps us strengthen our character. It allows us to assess whether we are living according to our values. Are we being honest in our dealings? Are we treating others with respect? Are we making choices based on wisdom rather than impulse? Without reflection, it is easy to drift away from our principles, making small compromises that, over time, lead us in the wrong direction. But when we make a habit of checking in with ourselves, we can realign with our ideals and ensure that we are living with integrity. Additionally, daily reflection improves decision-making. Many mistakes in life come from acting without thinking, rushing into situations without considering the consequences. But when we reflect regularly, we train our minds to be more deliberate and thoughtful. We become better at recognizing patterns in our behavior and learning from past experiences. This, in turn, allows us to make wiser choices in the future, avoiding unnecessary regrets and ensuring that our actions serve our long-term well-being. The practice of reflection does not have to be complicated. Some people find value in journaling, writing down thoughts at the end of the day. Others prefer quiet contemplation, taking a few minutes before bed to mentally review their actions and experiences. Some may choose to reflect through meditation, focusing on their breath and observing their thoughts without judgment. The method is not as important as the consistency. Even a few moments of sincere reflection each day can lead to profound changes over time. In a world full of distractions, where time seems to move faster each day, reflection is an anchor. It grounds us, providing clarity and insight that cannot be found in the noise of daily life. It is a way to ensure that we are not simply existing but truly living, growing, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. By making reflection a daily habit, we take control of our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately, our lives. In the end, daily reflection is not just a habit. It is a path to wisdom, clarity, and inner peace. It allows us to learn from our experiences, grow in character, and live with intention rather than simply reacting to life. Each day is an opportunity to improve. to align our actions with our values, and to cultivate a mind that is calm and focused. By making reflection a daily practice, we take control of our thoughts, our emotions, and our destiny. And in doing so, we ensure that we are not merely passing through life, but truly living it with purpose and meaning.